So here we go. Good evening, everyone. Give me a sign in the chat if everything looks good on your hand. Hi, Peppermint. Nice to see you again. So let me know, guys, if you have any problems seeing the video or if you don't hear me, if you just see my mouth going, moving, but you don't hear any sounds. All good. Okay. Thank you. So we have Alex in the chat, which is going to moderate the chat here. Thank you, Alex, for being there. And if you guys have any requests about the video quality, or you have some problem seeing or hearing something, just let me know in the chat, and I'll try to adjust this as fast as possible. I'm trying to use tonight the ultra low latency for the stream, so we have a little bit less latency than usual. Hopefully, it's probably around like 2 or 3 seconds. So when you send me questions or comments, I'm not seeing them immediately, so don't worry. I'm seeing everything. It's just that I take some time for the stream to go. So that we get out of the way, we have some news first. We have now in this stream the live chat. The super chat, actually, sorry, not the live chat. The super chat allows you guys to chat, of course, and to send also eventually some donations to the channel. If you'd like to do that, it's possible through the super chat or the super stickers. Will be greatly appreciated so that we can keep producing good content for you guys. Hi everyone. Hi, welcome to the chat. So if there are no questions, I would say we would get started here. So you see, I booted up the Arch ISO, and this is the typical process we do when we boot up, of course, the ISO from the Arch Linux installation. We would go ahead and boot it up. But before we do this, I want to show you something, because what happens here is when we boot up the ISO, normally the ISO tries to load the modules in memory, and in 90% of the cases, let's say, everything will work out of the box, especially the Wi-Fi. Problem is, if we don't have Wi-Fi when we install Arch Linux, then we're going to have a problem because we won't be able to download any package. So I actually had problems here very rarely with the modules, but it happens sometimes, and especially if you're using certain machines like certain Macs from the 2010-2011 year, which have Broadcom Wi-Fi cards, then we incur to the problem that if we boot from the Arch ISO, we don't have Wi-Fi because the card is not recognized. So I prepared here something for you guys to show you where eventually you can look this information up. On the Arch Wiki, there is a website describing the problem here. So what you have to do if you have a Broadcom card is to type in this command here in the terminal, which will tell you which card you have. And then based on this, you can decide which driver you need. Problem, for example, with the Mac I tried out, it was a MacBook Pro from 2010. I had to basically blacklist all these drivers here. The second one here, I had to blacklist also this one right here and this one right here. And so when I did that, then the ISO booted up the right module and I could have Wi-Fi. Then after I went on and installed the Broadcom wireless driver, which is proprietary, and then the Wi-Fi card was working perfectly also during the installation. So just for you to know, if you have any problem with that kind of card, this is where you find the infos and the packages you need to install. Now, how do we blacklist actually module from the ISO? Well, that's not so difficult. So we have our ISO here. And what we do in this case, we go to the first option and hit the E key on the keyboard. And you see it opens up here the boot line. So what we need to do here is to go down, to go to the end of the line. And we would need to enter here space and type in module underscore blacklist equal, and then the modules you want to blacklist, separated by a comma. And then you can hit F10 or Control X, and the ISO will boot up like this, and hopefully will boot up the right module if you have that kind of card. In most cases, this will not be needed, but if you encounter this problem, this is how you can deal with this. So let's go ahead and boot the ISO now, and let's go to the login prompt here. It's going to take a second to do this. I'm on a virtual machine, by the way, otherwise I won't be able to show you the shell. It's going to take a moment here to boot up. So there you go. So the first step, if you guys have a US keyboard, you're set to go. I don't, so I'm not set to go. So I need to find out actually the keyboard layout that I want to use in the shell. Otherwise, I would be keeping, typing typos the whole time. So to find out the keyboard layout, we have a command we can use, which is this one: local CTL list dash key maps. And I have to be careful not to make any typo here because I'm guessing the letters. And then we type in the pipe symbol. Sorry, I had a few glitch here on the video, which right now I cannot find. So I'll show you this in a second. Let me load the keys. I'll have to switch back to the terminal, to my terminal to do this. So what I'm going to do now, also for you guys to see the terminal with bigger fonts, because I cannot increase the font size here, is to install OpenSSH and then log in via SSH to my terminal. Then I can increase the font size and you can see also better on the screen. So let me install OpenSSH here very quickly. Refresh the servers once here and install OpenSSH. There you go. Then I need to give a password to the root user very quickly. And I need to start the service. There you go. And I need to find my IP here, which is 60. All right. So now I can minimize the window here, like so. You see, I have already a terminal prepared for you. And now I can type in SSH, then root at 192.168.122.60. There you go. Enter my fingerprint and my password. And now I'm logged in the ISO, so you can also see better. There you go. So I was saying, so if you don't have a US keyboard, then we can type in local CTL list dash key maps, then a space, and then the pipe symbol. And we use the grep function here to narrow down the search because we have a huge list of key maps in the system that we can use. So you need to know, of course, the connotation of your keyboard. You know, if you have a French keyboard, for example, it will be like FR. If you have a German keyboard, it's the DE, and so on. So I have a Swiss keyboard, and the connotation for that is CH. So what I do here is to search for that. So I'll just type in CH and hit enter. And you see it gives us the list of keyboard layouts here with the CH in it. So for example, if you have a Mac keyboard, you would go with one of these, Mac DECH and Mac or Mac FRCH. I'll go for the first one because this is the keyboard layout I have. I don't have a Mac keyboard. So to load this in the system, we would type in load keys and then the string we just found. So DE, in my case, underscore CH dash Latin1 and hit enter. And now my keyboard is working also in the terminal. So let me clean now the terminal up. So don't worry, guys. If you have any questions, just shoot them in the chat, and I will stop sometimes and read them through. Okay, banked. So installing VirtualBox, I drop into your file shell after start. Okay. Did you install grub with the removable flag? It sounds like it, because that's probably one way why it happens. Okay, I don't see any other question for now, so let's get going. So we need to check for an IP. We need to have internet, otherwise we will be stuck here on the terminal forever. So let's type in IP space A. And I have an IP here ending with 60 because I have an Ethernet cable connected to my machine, which is the Ethernet interface here. Now, if you have a cable, you'll have an IP as well. If you don't and you have Wi-Fi, now is the time to type in Wi-Fi-menu. And when you hit enter, you will see a list of networks where you can select yours, enter the password, and you will be connected as well. I don't do this because I don't have any Wi-Fi adapter in my VM, so it's not necessary for me to do that. But if you have Wi-Fi, this is the way you can do it. So once you have an IP, we need to synchronize first the network time protocol. So this is the synchronization time between the internet and your machine. This is important to when we download packages. So we do this by typing in time, date, CTL, and then set-ntp. So we set the network time protocol to true and hit enter. And this is done. So let's clean up the terminal and let's proceed by configuring our mirror list. So the mirror list is the list of servers for where we can download the packages we need to install Arch Linux. And we want to be sure to have the best servers available, better said, the best speeds available, because we're going to download several gigabytes here. So we can do this by using a package called Reflector, because by default the Arch ISO boots up with the standard list of mirror lists, which are not necessarily in the best order for you or for your location. Renan, hi, nice to see you again. So let's go ahead and install Reflector. So we can do this by typing in pacman -syy and then Reflector. So we synchronize the servers and install Reflector at the same time here. And then we can hit enter to proceed with the installation. Now Reflector is installed. We can clean up the terminal and use it to create our mirror list. So we can do this in several ways, but I'm going to do this very simply just to have a good functional mirror list. So I'll type in Reflector, then -C because I want to specify the country. So the country I'm in right now is Switzerland. So I'll type in Switzerland here. Normally speaking, the fastest server will be in your country, but it's not always the case. However, Switzerland, in my case, I don't have really doesn't have a lot of servers, so I always experience a good speed with the Swiss servers anyway. You might replace this, of course, with your country, and then -A for the age. That means since how many hours the server has been updated. And I put here 6, so that means 6 hours. I've tried actually to go with less than 6 hours, but at least with the Swiss server that was not successful, and I ended up with no servers available. So I don't go under 6 hours, but 6 hours should be actually good enough. Hi, Rafa. Welcome from Germany. And then we'll go to --sort. We need to tell Reflector how do we want to sort these servers. And the best way, of course, is to sort them by speed, which is in Reflector's term rate. And then we need to save this information into the mirror list directory. So we'll type in --save. And the mirror list directory is /etc/pacman.d/mirror list. And then we can hit enter. It's going to take 1 second to do that. There you go. So now we can refresh the servers one more time to type in pacman-syy and hit enter. And now we are set to install packages. So this is how you can install the mirror list having the best servers available for you in your country. You can define also other parameters like the protocol, for example, or how many servers you want to have in your list, not more than 10, for example, or 20. I don't need to do this because in Switzerland we don't have, I think, more than 3 or 4 servers, so that's plenty for me. But if you are in a country where you have more servers, then you might need to do that. All servers in Switzerland support HTTPS. Why you don't use the HTTPS protocol? Well, I use what's available. As you say, all servers, they have that, so probably it's not needed to specify it. I might do that if I would install probably after in the installation, but for right now, I think it's enough to have the fastest servers. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, so now we have the fastest servers. Let's look at our disk because we need to take care of our disk here. So let's type in lsblk and have a look at our disk here. So I have one disk in my VM here called VDA. So this is my name because it's a virtual machine. Your disk name might vary depending on the machine. So you might have here SDA. You might have here NVMe 0 and 1 if you have an NVMe drive. Or if you're installing on a second disk, it might be also SDB or SDC or whatever that disk would be. So everything what you see in this video here with VDA or VDA1 for the partitions, you will have to replace it with the disk you have. So the first thing we need to do is to partition the disk. And this is a UEFI system. That means we have two partitions that are mandatory. One is the EFI partition, and the second is the root partition. Those two are mandatory. We can create also optionally a home partition, and we can create also optionally a swap partition, but I'm going to create actually a swap file in my case later during the installation. Difference is the swap partition, there is a big discussion always if it's necessary or not necessary anymore nowadays. It was used to in the earlier days to help PCs with less RAM to swap basically data between the RAM and the swap partition when the data was not enough. But nowadays, of course, with bigger PCs and big RAMs, it's a little bit probably less necessary. The swap file is a bit more flexible because you can always delete it and recreate it, make it smaller or bigger, whatever. It's more flexible. While the swap partition, it's fairly fixed. Anyway, if you install this on an MBR system, with a older machine, probably a swap file, if you have like 2 GB of RAM, is probably a good idea. Otherwise, a swap file is probably better. So let's go ahead and partition the disk. So let's use Fdisk. Oh, well, sorry. Let's have a look at the questions here. I install Arch with XCC and I put Arch in my bar. No, I don't know why is that. I have to look into that. I don't use NeoFetch that often, so um, probably there's something in the script which is repeating in the bash RC script, I can imagine. That's just comes to mind. Rafa, are you asking about if I do the commands by memory, or if I understood your question? If so, yes. I installed Arch Linux so many times, I think I probably, it's like going on the bicycle, you never forget them afterwards. Okay, let's type in fdisk, and then we type in basically the disk path, which is /dev. This is the directory of the device, or devices, better said. And then the disk name is VDA in my case, so just we can hit enter. Now the thing is, Fdisk always create a DOS disk label here. This is standard. What we need to change here, because it's a UEFI system, we need to create a GPT label. So we do this by typing in G and hit enter. So that's very simple. And now we created a brand new GPT label for the disk. Now we can go ahead and create our first partition. So we'll type in N for new. We are asked for the partition number, and the default is 1. So I'll accept this and just hit enter here. The first sector is also fine. It's basically an alignment. The first 2048, we start there because it's aligning to the first sector of the disk that we don't need to write on. So we can accept the defaults here. And the last sector here defines basically the size of the partition. So the UEFI partition doesn't need to be so big. It can be like between 100 megabytes, 500 megabytes. Usually, so 100 to 100 megabytes, something like that. So I'll type in plus 200 and a capital M and hit enter. And it created the partition. Thing is now it created the partition number 1, and it has a Linux file system type. Now we need to change this because we need to have here EFI system. So we can change this by typing in T for type. And the selected partition is number 1, so it's the only one we have right now. So we need to define the partition type for the EFI system. So I know it's number 1, but if we don't know which number it is, we can type in capital L here and hit enter. And we have a list here of the partition we can choose from. So the one we need is the first one here, number 1. So let's exit from here by typing in Q and hit enter. And now we can say the partition type is number 1 and hit enter. And it changed the type of partition from Linux system from Linux file system to EFI system. And that's exactly what we want. So we can clean up the terminal. Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome to the live stream. Hi. You have 8 gigabytes of RAM. How much swap should be? Well, it depends. If you want to have a swap partition or a swap file, I assume you have quite a new or recent laptop. In that case, you can create like a 2 or 3 gigabyte swap file during the installation. If it's an older laptop, I mean, the rule of thumb, they say always it has to be the double of the RAM, but to create a 16 gigabyte swap partition, it's a little bit too much in my opinion. Hi, Fernando, welcome. Yep. Okay, we'll see that anyway with the packages, so don't worry. Yeah, the swappiness is something also to consider. Although there are a lot of discussions also in new for the new distros which are coming out, whether really it's necessary to have a swap file or a swap partition anymore. But we'll see. I think it's a discussion that I don't want to get into too much because it's something that will change and will evolve with time, whether it's needed or not. It's still, I believe, a legacy thing for the past, but with new PCs, probably in a few years, we won't need any swap of any kind, but we'll see. All right, so we need to create the root partition. So let's type in n for new and hit enter. Let's accept the default number 2 here as a partition, so we can hit enter here. First sector is fine, so we can accept the default. And the last sector here, again, defines the size of the partition. So because I want to create just one partition here, I can accept the default. If you want to create a home partition afterwards, then you can give the root partition probably like 30 or 40 gigabytes, something like that. The advantage of creating a home partition is that if you need to reinstall the system, you can reinstall it in the root partition, and your personal data will be intact in the home partition, and you just need to remount it and your files will be there. It really depends on your workflow and how you save your data. In my case, I don't do this because I save everything what I use. My data is always on an external server, so I don't need to have actually a home partition. But it's a good practice if you want to do that. It's a good scenario to have one. So here I'm just going to accept the default by hitting enter, and the partition is created. So now we need to write all these changes to the disk, and we type in W for that and hit enter. And the partition table has been written to the disk. So we are done here. We can clean up the terminal. Now, if we type in lsblk, we can see we have our first partition here, VDA1, 200 megabytes. This is going to be our EFI partition. And VDA2 is our root partition, 250 gigabyte, something like that. Okay, so we created the partitions. Now we need to format them. And the first one, the VDA1 partition, it's an EFI partition, so we need to format this with the FAT file system. Okay, so in this tutorial, Julio, I think I'm probably going to install with ext4 because this is still one of the most used file system types, is in one of the most matures. I would say if you guys want to have a live stream once where we can install it with Btrfs, you let me know, because Btrfs configuration, it's a little bit more complex. And we can definitely do that, but we need to, I need to set this up, and I need to also test it before we can do a live stream with that. But if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments of the video, and we can definitely do it one time. So let's begin formatting VDA1, and we'll do this by typing in mkfs, which is the make file system command, and then we define the file system type, which I said before, this is FAT file system. So we'll type in FAT for FAT. And we need to tell the system it has to be a FAT32 file system type. So we do this by typing in dash capital F32. And then we need to tell the system the partition path, which is /dev/VDA1. And then we just hit enter. So that's done. Now we can also format VDA2, our root partition, and we'll do the same process. We type in mkfs, so make file system. Now we need to tell the system which file system type we want to use. So as I said before, we will use ext4 this time. So we'll type in ext4, and then again the partition path. So /dev/VDA2, and hit enter. And the partition is formatted. So let's now mount these partitions before we install the base packages. So let's mount first our VDA2 partition, which is the root partition. This is the partition where we are going to install Arch Linux. So we'll mount the partition by typing in mount. We specify the partition path /dev/VDA2. And then we specify where we want to mount this partition. And we want to mount this in the slash mount directory, which is our installation directory. And then we just hit enter. Now we need to mount also VDA1, our EFI partition here, into the boot directory or boot EFI directory in our installation directory, which is the slash mount directory. But it's not existing that directory, so we need to create it first. We can create it by typing in mkdir and then slash dev, slash mount, slash boot. We can install it in slash boot. We can install it in slash boot slash EFI. This is up to you guys. There is no, it's not mandatory to have one or the other. At least slash boot, let's say. Could be also slash EFI, but slash boot will do it. And then we can hit enter. And now we can mount VDA1 into this directory here by typing in mount slash dev slash VDA1. So we specify our partition path, slash mount slash boot, and hit enter. There you go. Now, if we type in again lsblk, we see the mount points here. So we have VDA1 on slash mount slash boot and VDA2 on slash mount. So the mounting is correct and we can proceed by installing the base packages. Let's see what you guys have to say. Okay, so let's go ahead and install the base packages here. And we'll use the packstrap command for that. So let's type in packstrap. We need to tell the system where to install these packages. So this is the slash mount directory. Remember, this is our installation directory. And then we need to select the packages we want to install. So the first one is base. And we want to install also the Linux package, which is going to install the latest Linux kernel. You can install also the LTS version here by typing instead of Linux here, linux-lts. But you can install also the Zen kernel or the hardened kernel with the SE security and enhanced Linux, but that's a bit more complicated to configure afterwards. I'm going to go with the normal Linux kernel, the latest kernel, which I believe is 5.8.11 right now. And also we're going to install Linux-firmware. It's going to provide some extra firmware for your machine. Now, if you have an Intel processor, we can also install Intel-U code. It's going to provide some extra firmware for your processor. And if you have AMD processor, you can also install AMD-U code. So I'm on a virtual machine, so I actually don't need to install those. But if you do have one of these processors, you can install this. It's going to benefit the processor. One last package we need to install is an editor, which we'll need later to edit some files. In my case, I'm going to choose Nano. You can choose another editor if you know another one, like Vim, for example. And then we can just hit enter. So here it's going to take a moment to download and install the packages. And Bengt, the gen fstab file will create it in a second while the packages are installed. So I remind you also, guys, if you haven't seen that yet, you can come to our website. You can also visit our website. We have a shop there with sustainable hardware where we install Linux on some old machines, old Macs actually, older Macs. It's a way to support the channel if you like to do that. And we have also the super chat here available in YouTube if you want to support the channel. Any donation will help us keep producing videos also in the future. So the packages are installed now. So let's clean up the terminal. And now it's time to generate the file system table, the so-called fstab file. We can do this by typing in gen fstab. So generate the fstab, generate the file system table, -u. This is one way how we can generate the fstab file. And the -u option means we are going to generate this with the UUID of the partition. So the UUID is a unique identifier for your partition, and it's going to be used to generate the file system table where all our mount points for the partitions are going to be stored. So this is the file where basically when the machine boots, the system knows which partition has to be mounted. Then we type in /mount, which is our installation directory, and we need to put this information by typing twice the major than symbol. This in the Linux language means appending information, the twice the major than symbol. So we are going to append this information to /etc. slash mount slash etc slash fstab and hit enter. So we put this information in the fstab file, which is in the etc directory in our installation directory. Okay, that's the meaning of this command. So we can look at the fstab file and see what's in there. Let's type in cat slash mount slash etc slash fstab and hit enter. So you see here what I meant before. This is the UUID of the root partition, which has its mount point here. It has its file system type here, its option here, and a file system checks here. The number one means basically this partition is going to be checked first when we boot the machine. And the same goes for VDA1, the EFI partition. It has its UUID here, mount point, file system type, its options. These are quite many options. And a file system checks. That means this partition is going to be checked second when we boot up the machine. So everything looks good, and we can clean up the terminal. Would you use a swap with 32 gigabytes of system memory? Honestly, no. Honestly, not. I am not using it on my main system here. I don't see any issue. I never had any issue. I'm using the system now since months. Haven't had any problem even without a swap. I've done at the beginning with the swap file. Then I tried to test it without. I didn't see actually any difference. All right, so now it's time to move into the installation and leave the ISO installer. So to do this, we'll need to type in this command, arch-root, and then /mount, and hit enter. You see also the login prompt changed here. We left the ISO installer, and we entered the installation directory. So we can clean up the terminal now, and we can proceed by creating the swap file. So the swap file will create it by typing in this command, fallocate. So we want to allocate a file. -L means length or size, which is going to be, a certain amount of gigabytes that you can define. I'm going to give it 2 gigabytes. That's enough for me. So I'll type in 2 GB and then /swap file and hit enter. Now we need to give the swap file here read permissions, and we'll do this by typing in chmod, changing permissions or modify permissions 600, and then /swap file and hit enter. So the 600 permission means the first number is the owner of the file, which is the root user in this case. And the 6 means the owner has read and write permission. And that's exactly what we want. The 0 and the 0 here, the 0 here in the middle is the permission for the group, and the third 0 is the permission for others. So basically it means groups and other users don't have any permissions on the swap file. Only the root user can change this. So now that we changed these permissions, we can make the swap by typing in mkswap and then /swap file and hit enter. Now we can activate the swap by typing in swap on /swap file and hit enter. And now we need to put also the swap file in the fstab file as for the file system table. And to do this, we are going to use nano, our editor. So we'll type in nano /etc/fstab and hit enter. We go down to the empty space here and type in /swap file. This is the partition name. The mount point is next, and it's none because it doesn't have any mount point. File system type is swap, and the options are defaults, and the file system checks are 0 and 0, so nothing here to check anyway. And then hit Ctrl O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl X to exit the editor. What's your desktop environment window manager? So I'm using right now KDE with, I think it's the Papyrus team from the Arch user repository. And this is my main machine. This is what I use because I have many programs which run really well on KDE. But if on my laptop I have GNOME, and if I would use a window manager, I will probably use i3, which is one of my favorite ones. Ilario, ciao, benvenuto. Okay, so the next step is to go ahead and tell the system about our locale stuff. So we need to define first the time zone for the system, and we need to find out the time zone where we are in. So we have a command we can use to do that, and we can type in time date ctl, then list dash time zones, then a space, and then again a pipe symbol, a space again, and then we use the grep function to narrow down the search because the time zone list is huge, so we need to narrow this down. What I do normally is to search by city. It's the easiest way, as the city match is probably only one. In my case, because I'm in Switzerland, the only city which has a time zone reference is Zurich. So I'll type in Zurich here and hit enter. And you see it returns only one time zone here, and that's the one I need to tell the system. You can replace this with a city, with your city, and see what comes up here in the locales. And then you can choose the time zone accordingly to your position. Yeah, Clyde, it's usually the country's capital, but believe it or not, in Switzerland, Zurich is not the capital. The capital in Switzerland is Bern. So in this case, it's not. I don't know why, but this is not the capital, at least for this country. At least not that I know. But since I live here since a while, I think I don't know why they choose Zurich here for the time zones. Bern is capital of Switzerland since I don't know since when, but this is how it is. So we need to tell the system that we are in this time zone. And we do this by typing in ln-sf. So we are creating here a link from something to something. And the from something part is /user, which is not the user directory. This is the Unix system resource directory. /share /zone info / and then we can type in the string that we just found, which is Europe /Zurich. And then we need to link this information to /etc /local time. So we are linking basically this time zone here to the local time file. This is what the system needs to know. And then we just hit enter. Now that we did this, we can synchronize the hardware clock to the system clock. And we do this by typing in hwclock space --sys to hc, so system to hardware clock, and hit enter. And this is done. So Fernando is asking about the solid black desktop background. To be honest with you, I don't know. It depends. Sometimes I like to have a solid background, whether it's black or a dark color. But sometimes I like to have a very slight dimmed picture behind it. I don't know why. It's just feels more relaxing to my eyes to see something else than black sometimes. But it depends what I'm doing, and sometimes it's not even possible to have a different background. So it really depends on what I'm doing. So we need to now work on the locale.gen file, and to do this we need to use Nano, the editor we installed before. So we'll do this by typing in nano /etc /locale.gen and hit enter. Now we can scroll down the list here and look for our locales. And you can select actually as many locales as you wish. In my case, I'm just going to look for English US, which is right here. We need to select the one which has UTF-8. This is the string we need. And then we uncomment this line by deleting the hashtag. And then hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. As I said, you can select as many as you like in the locale.gen file. It's up to you. After this, we can generate the locales. So we'll type in locale-gen and hit enter. And it seems to be I selected the wrong one. So let me go back into the locale.gen file here. Okay, what did I do? I see, yeah, I selected the wrong one here. Okay, no problemo. Let's go back here. This is the one we want. Uncomment this one. Ctrl-O-X, and then again generate the locales. There you go. Now it's correct. Hi Jay, welcome to the chat. So now we need to also work on the locale .com file. And we do this by using the echo command. So let's type in echo, double quotes, and then we'll put in the string lang equal, and we use the string we found before. In my case, it was this one right here. So en underscore us. And so we'll type in en underscore us dot utf -8, then double quote again. And then we append this information or create the file if it doesn't exist to /etc/locale.conf and hit enter. Clyde, do you plan on giving Vim a chance? I tell you what, Clyde, I'm using Vim all day long when I'm on the Red Hat stuff. And it's a great editor. I like it, but for many people, it's a little too complicated, especially with the keyboard shortcuts. So I'm using Nano here because it's a little bit more simple. That's the only reason. So if you select at the beginning of the video a different key map for your keyboard, we need to put this also in the vconsole.com file. Otherwise, when we boot the machine again, you'll be back to the US layout. So we can do this again by using the echo command. So we can type in echo, double quote, and then key map equal. And we select now and we type in the key map we chose at the beginning of the video. So in my case, it was de_ch-latin1. And then again, double quote, and we append or create the file if it doesn't exist, which is /etc/vconsole.conf, and hit enter. There you go. Easy peasy. Now, let's also create our host name. So we need to give a name to our machine. And to do this, we'll use nano. So I'll type in nano /etc/hostname and hit enter. So you can basically give a name to your machine here. You can call it whatever you like. I'll call it Arch. Oh, I could call it Arch or the Arch KDE, whatever. And then Control O and enter to save the file, and Control X to exit the editor. And now we also enter the host file. We edit the host file by typing in nano /etc/hosts and hit enter. So this is the file where we enter our IPv4 address, the IPv6 address. And if you would have a domain that you own and you have a static IP, for example, you could enter them here. This is where the system can read those informations. But I don't have personally now a domain here or an IP, static IP, so I'll just use the default ones. So the first one is the IPv4 address, which is 127.0.0.1, and then a tab, and then localhost. And then on the next line, the IPv6 address, which is : 1, and then tab, and then localhost again. And on the last line, it's 127.0.1.1, and then our host name. So in my case, I chose before Arch KDE. If you chose something else, you will have to change it here. .local domain. And then tab again, and then Arch KDE. And then hit Control O and enter to save the file, and Control X to exit the editor. So that's done. Now let's give the root user a password. Let's type in passwd and enter the new password and retype it. There you go. Now we need to install some packages. So the first one is going to be grub, our bootloader, and then we have also some other packages. So let's go through one by one. Let's type in sudo. No, we don't need sudo. We can type in pacman-s. So the first one is grub. The second package we need to install, it's the EFI boot manager package, and we need this because it's an EFI system. So we'll type in EFI boot mgr. That's the package. Now some networking packages. The first one is network manager. We could use also on other packages. There is a typo here. Network manager. Yeah, we could use also another packages for networking. I'm used to network manager. It works very reliably, and so that's why I'm using it all the time. The next package is network-manager-applet. Well, this is just an applet for the network manager, but it's going to help us when we install the desktop environment. Then some wireless tools for our wireless card. One is wireless underscore tools. I'm not sure this package is already included in Network Manager. It can be. If not, it's just going to skip it, but I'm going to type it in anyway. The other one is WPA underscore supplicant. And I want to install also dialog, which is also a networking package, and also OS Prober. So OS Prober is not really strictly necessary here. This is more useful, if you're dual booting with another system, or you plan to install another system one day. OS Prober is going to help us. It's going to help you to detect the other operating system on the machine. Then two packages for working with FAT file systems. For example, like if you have a USB stick with with a FAT file system which can be read in Windows and in Linux. These packages are, one is mtools and the other one is DOS FS tools. And I will install also two development packages which sooner or later we are going to need anyway. One is base-devel and the other one is Linux-headers. So if you install the LTS version of the kernel before the beginning, when we install the packages, you might want to also install the headers LTS, which is Linux-LTS-headers. They need to match, otherwise it won't work. And I'm going to install also some other packages for our system. The first one is Blues and Blues utils. So these are packages for the Bluetooth adapter. And you can install them both. One is the driver, one is the utilities. The other package we can install is for our print server, which is CUPS. CUPS, by the way, is the I think it's called Unified Printing Unix Printing Service, and it was actually developed by Apple. It's one of the few projects open source from Apple, actually. Then, if you have an HP printer, I can also recommend you to install HPLib. It contains lots of drivers for HP printers. So if you have one, I recommend you install it. It's going to come in handy when we install the desktop environment. Okay, cancel this because I don't install this in a virtual machine. Let me check here some questions and how and when to install the microcode. So yes, the microcode we installed it already before when we installed the base packages. And you can do this for the two processors. One is the Intel-U code and the other one is the AMD-U code. You can install them here as well. It's not relevant when you install them, but you can install them when you install the packages, and you can install them when you install these packages now. Hi Gary, nice to see you again. Yes, Reflector, definitely. It's another package that we can install also in our installation. I'm going to install also Git. Git is the package which is going to help us install later Yay, the helper for the Arch user repository. So we basically, I think, are done here. I don't see any other package that we need to install. We could install also Pulse Audio-Bluetooth. This will help you if you have some Bluetooth headsets to work. We could do that. We can type in Pulse Audio-Bluetooth. And we could also install, the whole Pulse Audio server. But if you are installing certain desktop environments like KDE or GNOME, it's going to be installed anyway. Oh, wait, I see a typo here. It's Pulse, not Pulse, Pulse. Pulse, there you go. But if you install some window managers like i3, then you need to install also the servers. But in this case, it will not be necessary. I'm going to cover, in the base installs, what I did, the tutorials. I put everything in there because the base installs are going to be used for basic installing. And then when you choose to install the window manager, you have already everything there. Hi, welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Yes, Clyde is also right there. You need to regenerate the grub configuration to detect the microcode eventually. We haven't installed that yet, so we'll do it in a second. But I think for the packages, it's now enough, so we can just hit enter here. And here we can accept the defaults for the first packages of the base level. This is the development packages. And we can proceed with the installation by hitting enter. It's about 200 megabytes. It's not that much. There you go. It's going to take a moment to do that. Yes, if you have a Bluetooth keyboard, these packages will help you out pairing that. The Blues and Blues utils. I had, now I don't have it here anymore, but I had a Microsoft keyboard. The Surface keyboard actually worked perfectly with KDE. Okay, so the packages are installed. We can clean up the terminal. And now we need to install grub, the bootloader. So let's type in grub -install. And we need to define first the parameter of the machine, so the target machine basically. So we'll type in --target equal. So I follow the wiki information here. When I'm installing grub, most of the time it's mostly going to work. I never had an issue with this. And the wiki is always the best source of information. You find everything what you need on the Arch wiki there. So the 64-bit machine is x86_64-EFI, and not Wi-Fi, EFI. Thank you. And then we need to define the EFI directory where we are going to install grub. So we'll type in --EFI-directory equal. If you remember, when we mounted our partitions, that was the /boot partition where we mounted the EFI partition. And that's where we need to put in here. And then the last parameter is the bootloader ID. So we'll type in --bootloader -ID equal grub. And then we can just hit enter. Sorry about that. So there you go. So the installation is done of grub. Now we need to generate the configuration file. So we'll do this by typing in grub-mkconfig. So we are telling the system to make the configuration for grub. -o, we are telling the system to put the output of this configuration file to /boot/grub, and the file is grub.cfg. And hit enter. And there you go. Now, as Clyde was mentioning before, if you installed also the U-code, you will have also here found Intel U-code or AMD U-code here in the lines. I don't have this. This is a VM, so I didn't need to install that. But the installation was successful. Hi, Udai. Welcome to the live stream. So we need to enable some services before we can go ahead and add a new user. So we installed, if you remember before, we installed Network Manager for Internet, we installed the Bluetooth packages, and we installed the CUPS, the printing service. So we need to enable those, otherwise when we boot the machine, they will not work. So let's enable first Network Manager. Let's type in system ctl enable Network Manager and hit enter. Done. Clean up the terminal, and because I'm a lazy typer, I need to now enable Bluetooth. So I replace here Network Manager with Bluetooth and hit enter. There you go. And last but not least, our printing system. So I replace here Bluetooth with CUPS, right? Nope. The package, the service is org.cups.cupsd and hit enter. There you go. Yep. So the MK init CPIO, you can regenerate this if you change some of the hooks. You know, for example, if you remove the file system check hooks when you're using a Btrfs file system or something like that, then you can definitely remake the MK init CPIO. But for a normal installation, that's not necessary. So we enable the services. Now we can create a new user, and for that, let's type in user add -mg. I'll explain you what it does in a second, and then wheel, and then you can choose your username you like. So in my case, I'm going to choose my name and hit enter. So what we are telling the system here is to create a new user add. Well, this is easy. -m. So the M option means this user has to have a home directory, and the capital G dash switch here means you have to give this user a supplementary group, which is the wheel group in this case. And we are going to see what this does in a second, but just a sec here. Okay. So in Linux, when you create a user, every user at his own group, and this is by default going to assign to the user. So my username, my user has his own ID for the user ID, and it has also his own group. And the capital G here, it's telling to the system to give extra the wheel group to my user, not to replace the user group I have, but to give an extra group. So if I type in now ID hermano, for example, well, I have to type in the terminal, thank you. If I type in now ID hermano, you can see the groups that I belong to. I belong to my group, which is the 1000 group. This is my group. And I belong also to the wheel group. So I have two groups here. If I wouldn't have put in the capital G here, it was going to replace my group with the wheel group, but I don't want to do that. So then we can give a password to the user. So we'll type in passwd and then the username, and hit enter, enter the new password, and retype it. There you go. Can clean up. Oh, before we clean up the terminal, we need to give Hermano also sudo privileges. Otherwise, I won't be able to use it. So to give Hermano user sudo privileges, we need to go to a file called vsudo. But we need to tell the system to open this with nano because this is the editor I installed now. So we need to type in editor equal nano and then vsudo and hit enter. So here we need to scroll down until we find the wheel group we talked about. So just to make sure that you understand, guys, this is one way we can create sudoers in a system. There is another way which is probably more appropriate for system administrators. There is another directory where you can create files, with a group which is going to be specified and read also in the vsudo command, etc. But this is more for system administration. So I'm just going to use this system because it's much easier here. So what we need to do is to uncomment the wheel group, which has the all equal all line by deleting the hashtag. And now it means if we put any user into the wheel group, this user will have automatically sudo privileges. Okay, so then we hit Control O and enter to save the file and Control X to exit the editor. And this is done. Don't worry about the typos, Clyde. I'm making typos the whole time. Once I have to do a video on YouTube, about my mistakes here, you will laugh like crazy, I tell you. Okay, first name, last name. I will look into this. It's a scenario I've never thought about. I will note it down. Manjaro KDE JOS is great. It's a great distro. Yeah, Hermano Gax. Yeah, thanks, Alex. I'm sure you are all for it. Banked Ubuntu is a great distro. The difference with Arch Linux is a rolling release. And it has all the latest software, latest packages. It's a little bit more maintenance like, but once you get used to it, it's actually not that scary. Ubuntu is of course very stable. It's a great distro. I recommend it to everyone who wants to put into Linux. It's one of the best distro you can try on at the beginning. Yes, Alex, I know you. Do you normally use Nano as your terminal text editor? Yes and no. So that's the first editor I started to use when I started Linux. But then because of the Red Hat certifications, I learned Vim, which I actually use in my system. But for most people, Nano, it's easier. And that's why I use it in the tutorials and also in the live streams. I know some people likes Vim and some people thinks Vim is the best one, and it is actually very good, but it's a bit more complicated, especially for people who are not used to it. Yeah, Fernando, you can send me maybe once a video of your mistakes. That will be fun. Bye, Renan. Nice to have you. It was nice that you were here. A window on customizing Windows ISO by removing parts of it like Cortana. Ooh, that's a big topic. I don't know. Let's see. First, I think I need to cover Linux. Probably until I retire, I probably will not be done, but we'll see. Funbuntu, that's a good distro, yeah. Oh, Clyde, Cortana is not cancerous. It's just, it's just an idea. Somebody like it, somebody don't like it. Same goes for the Google Assistant. So let's get going. So we were here, we installed the new user. So now we can exit the installation and return to the installer. So we need to go back to the ISO installer because the base install is now done. So we type in exit here very simply. And now we need to unmount the machines. We can do this by typing in umount-a, which means unmount all, or umount-r/mount, which is going to unmount everything in the installation directory. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter. And then we can hit enter. And now we can reboot our machine. But before I do this, I will exit the shell here. And I'll pull up here again my virtual machine so that you can see the reboot, which is right here. There you go. And now we can type in reboot. And I will have to probably delete the ISO because it's going to boot up from the ISO again. So bear with me a sec here. I'll have to do it in my other, what is that? Oh, yeah. Just a sec, guys. Yeah. I'll have to apply. There you go. So if you would be so kind to boot up. There you go. There you go. So there you go. Grub is installed. So it was successful. And now we can boot up the machine again by hitting enter here. Reboot is okay. I had to power off because otherwise I boot in the ISO, but that has to do with the VM. Don't worry, Bengt. Also, which shell is the best for Arch Linux? That's a very difficult question to answer. I'm used with Bash. So the Arch Linux ISO is using ZSH, I think, which is also okay. Also nice. It's a nice shell. Bash is probably still one of the most common shells to use in Linux. But Fish has also very nice features. They're all very good. Probably Bash is the oldest one. It's the most used one still, but there are many alternatives. I use normally Bash. It's the stream okay? Yeah, I see it was buffering for a second there. That's good. I use normally Bash anyway. So let's proceed here by entering our username and the password. And now let me install actually SSH here on my system so that I can go back to my terminal. You can see better because these fonts are a little bit small, and I cannot make them larger. So I'll just install SSH very quickly. So bear with me here. Open SSH, enter my root password, proceed with the installation. And I need to enable the system, sudo systemctl start sshd. There you go. I check my IP here, and it's 6.1. So bear with me a second. I'll pull back my terminal here, and I'll clean it up and type in now SSH, then hermano at 192.168.122.61. Enter my fingerprint and the password, and now I'm logged in. There you go. Now we are into the terminal. So let's close up the VM here. Thank you so much, Bengt, for the support. Thank you. Very appreciated. So let's proceed now with the graphic card. So guys, this is a big topic, and we will take some time here for the graphic cards. It can be a little bit tricky, especially if you have an NVIDIA card. Mohammed, which kernel is currently the best? The best, it's the one which works best for you, I would say. I installed here the latest kernel, which is the Linux package. You can install also the LTS version, which is the current one, which also Ubuntu uses. My advice to you is if you want to have a more maybe stable system, go for the LTS version. If you want to be on the bleeding edge and on the latest, go for the latest kernel, which is the Oh, we can check it here. Uname -r. Yeah, it's 5611 exactly. Yeah. So this is the latest kernel. Personally, I never had any issue with the latest kernel, but my machine is also very light. I don't have tons of apps installed, and I take care of the maintenance daily. So I don't have any issue with that. But if you want, you can go with the LTS. There is also the Zen kernel. The Zen kernel, it's meant as a Zen. It means it should be able to run on any machine. This is the idea. I haven't tested that, so I cannot attest to that, but that's the idea. And we have also the Linux dash hardened kernel, which is using the security enhanced Linux part of the Fedora and Red Hat Linux Enterprise. So the graphic card. So guys, if you have an Intel card, it's fairly simple. We can type in this package sudo pacman-s. By the way, pacman is the package manager for Archlinux, for those of you who don't know. And the package is xf86-video-intel. Now, if you plan to actually install the Cinnamon desktop environment, the wiki recommends, and I recommend you also, because I tried this out, not to install this package if you have an Intel card, because the Cinnamon desktop environment will probably freeze with this package. So what you can do, if you have an Intel card, you can basically leave this package out. And there is a package already installed in the core installation, which is the Mesa package, which provides a basic kernel for your graphic driver for the Intel card, which will take care of that. And you will not have to worry about the Cinnamon desktop environment. So if you want to install Cinnamon, forget this package. If you want to install any other desktop environment, you can go ahead and install this one if you have an Intel card. If you have an AMD card, you can replace Intel, sorry, with AMD GPU. And if you have an NVIDIA card, it can be a little bit more tricky. So for new cards, recent cards, let's say it's enough to install NVIDIA and also NVIDIA-utils. You can install also eventually NVIDIA-settings. Let's give you a GUI for managing your video card. So as I said, this would be enough to, for most recent cards, but we have to look at some other scenarios. And I prepared here for you guys something that you might want to see. So there is a wiki page about NVIDIA cards, which explains what you have to do if you have a problem with your NVIDIA cards. So the first thing is to find out which model you have. And to do that, you can go to a terminal and type in this command here. I will leave the link to this page in the video description at the end of the stream. Once you type in this, you will see what kind of card you have, and it gives you the information that you need in order to find out which driver you need to install. So the wiki recommends you also here, once you know which card you have, so the model, you can go to the Nouveau Wiki's codename page here, and you can search for the card, and then you can see its code name, which is on the left side here. So if it's, say, GeForce 1060, it's a NV130 code, for example, and so on. There's a tons of cards you can look here. So you can really look for yours. You can search in the website and look for your card. There is every card for NVIDIA here available. Then once you know the code that you need, you can define which driver you can install. So we have three scenarios here. If you have one of these cards, GeForce 630, 900, 1020, Quadro, Tesla, Tegra K, and also the NVA 0 and NV1110, 110 family or newer, then you can install, as I said, the NVIDIA package or the NVIDIA LTS package if you install the Linux LTS kernel. So you need to see here if your card is in one of these families here. If not, we go to option number 2. So if your card is one of these 400, 500, 600 GeForce, NVCX or NVDX, so replacing the number here by the codes we saw before, which is from around 2010-11, you need to install the NVIDIA 390XX DKMS from the AUR. So you need to basically install a package from the Arch user repository for that card. If you have an older card than that, then we have to have a look at the unsupported drivers, which are down here. So this can get a little bit nasty because if you have a GeForce 300, for example, and I had experience with this because one of the MacBook Pros we sell on our shops, on our shop, have a 300M card in it. It's a MacBook Pro from 2010, and I needed to actually fiddle with that with Arch Linux. It was needed to go to the wiki here and find a solution. So basically, if you have one of these cards, NVIDIA doesn't support these cards anymore. They don't provide any driver. That means you can still use it if you use the Nuvo driver, which is already installed in the system. The advantage here is that Nuvo, which is the open driver, will support old cards with the current version of Xorg, which is the display server for Linux. The disadvantage of Nuvo is that it does support the latest version of Xorg, but the disadvantage is that it doesn't offer the greatest performance, especially if you're looking for 3D performance. That would be not really the best, but it's a compromise. You can still use the NVIDIA packages, the original the NVIDIA drivers. If you go to the Arch user repository with the NVIDIA Drive 40 XX the only problem here is that you will have a better 3D performance, but they will not support the latest version of Xorg. So the latest version supported is 1.2. So it's a compromise here. Whether you want to have better 3D performance and stability, or you want to have the latest version of Xorg. So the last thing is, if your card is even older than that, then there is no package for Arch Linux. So that's a little bit the case for some cards. You have also the possibility to, with a custom kernel, you can also work with that. But for the most case scenario, the scenario number 1 or number 2 is probably the one that is going to apply most of the time. So there is not one solution for every NVIDIA card, unfortunately. There are so many scenarios with NVIDIA, and NVIDIA has never been that much open with Linux, with the Linux community. So that's why we have always a little bit of issues with the cards, but that's how it is. Hi, Ufe. Thank you for joining the stream. You're welcome. Yudai, yes, there is a video on YouTube about Linus Torvald saying that, and I've seen that many times. It's quite fun to watch. Anyway, nothing against NVIDIA, though. They make fantastic graphic cards. Nothing to say there. So this is about the graphic card itself. If you guys have a laptop with hybrids, that's also one thing that you need to explore. It's the so-called NVIDIA Optimus, which enables you to switch graphic cards, whether you can use Intel cards or NVIDIA cards. You can decide this in the BIOS. But if you want to be able to switch between the two cards, there are many possibilities here. The official method supported by NVIDIA is the Prime method, which is already supported in the latest drivers for NVIDIA. So you won't have to worry about anything there. It's going to be automatically done. If you want, you can use also Optimus Manager, which is a package from the AUR that you need to install, and you need to enable also a starter service in order to use it. This is going to give you the opportunities to switch manually between the two cards. NVIDIA Extron is also one option, but it's just gonna, like it's. I've never used this one, but I don't have now NVIDIA cards since years. Basically, this is going to like it says here, achieve maximum performance and switch it off when it's not in use. We have Bumblebee. Also, it's provide like Windows functionality. The only thing is, when I was trying Bumblebee, it has, like it says here, also it has performance issues. So maybe it's not the best. And the Nuvo, also it's a possibility, but it has also poorer performance. So if you can, definitely go with Prime. This is the supported method for NVIDIA, and it works really well. So that's for the NVIDIA cards. So you guys need to decide based on the card you have. So once we install this, wait, what am I here? Okay. So once we install the package here for the graphic cards, I need to install mine still because I'm on a VM here. So mine is xf86-video-qxl. QXL is the driver for the Red Hat virtual display, which I'm using now. And I need to enter my password and do the installation. There you go. So I'm assuming you've done yours. And before we proceed, let me check. Are you using OBS Friends? No, I'm not. Well, that about the encoder, Mohammed, I can imagine that goes the same for the drivers. You know, NVIDIA, it's always a little bit, how would I say, it's a little bit less open than AMD in these things. So probably that's one of them. Oh, sorry, I understand now what you meant. Yes, I'm using OBS. It's called OBS. Yeah, yeah. Broadcasting Studio. Why am I high in my head? I have OCS. I don't know why. It's OBS. Yes, of course. So now we can install our display server, the display manager, and the desktop environment. Okay, so let's go ahead and I will put them all in one command here. So the first one, we need to type in sudo pacman-s to install the packages. And the first one is Xorg. Okay, so Xorg is the display server, and the Xorg, what I type in now is the group. It's the Xorg group, which contains the all Xorg packages. It's not necessarily necessary always to install the whole group. However, I'm finding myself always needing to install also other packages from Xorg, so I rather install them all now and I don't think about it anymore. Then we need to install also the display manager. This is going to depend on the desktop environment. So in this live stream, we're going to install KDE. So the desktop environment for that, it's STDM, though we can use also another one, but it's probably the one which worked the best for KDE. So I'll type in STDM here. And then the packages for the KDE desktop environment. The first one is Plasma. Again, this is the Plasma group. It contains the whole group of the Plasma packages. You could install also just Plasma Desktop or make it a little lighter, but sooner or later I'm going to use them all anyway, so I just install them all now. And we can install also optionally KDE-applications. And this is containing many applications for KDE like Kmail, you know, the calculator and many others. This is optional if you want to go for a full experience, definitely do that. If not, you don't have to. And I want to install also package kits, Qt5. This is a package which is used to by the Discover Software Center in KDE to update packages to the Discover Software Center. Not that I'm going to do that because I'm doing always through the terminal, but if you guys want to do this, this is needed to install. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. I'm going to install also a browser. In my case, I like to install Chromium. You can install Firefox if you'd like to. And I'm going to install also LibreOffice. And I think that's about it. So let me hit enter here. So here we accept the defaults for Xorg and also for the group Plasma. This is the default for the KDE applications. Now for the LibreOffice, we have two versions we can choose from. One is the fresh version, which is offering the latest updates or the latest version. And the still version, it's a little bit like the LTS version of LibreOffice. It's a little older, but you know, it's supposed to be a little bit more stable. But I'm going to hide and I'm going to install the fresh one here. So I'll just hit enter. This is the dependencies for the fonts, and that's fine. And I'm going to accept the defaults here for the rest. And now we can press enter to proceed with the installation. There you go. So let's see, you guys, which hardware do you use for Linux? So my main machine, I have Ryzen 9 as a processor, AMD Ryzen 9. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I have a graphic card is the Sapphire, AMD Sapphire 5700 XT, which is not that high-end graphic card, but it's a nice graphic card, and you know that's what I like about the AMD. AMD, they have good performance and a good price as well. So if you want to install GNOME, you can install the display manager as a GDM. It's the GNOME Display Manager. And the packages for GNOME are GNOME and GNOME-Extra. So the GNOME package is the basic package, and the GNOME-Extra is like the KDE applications. It offers you extra apps for a more complete experience in GNOME, but it's optional, completely optional. So it takes a moment here to install everything. So again, I remind you guys, if you would like to support the channel, you can do so also by visiting our Patreon website. You can also donate something through the live chat here to the super chat or via PayPal if you like to, or you can visit also our shop on the website. We have some hardware there for you to buy. We have, we take good hardware, old hardware. We put in new batteries when needed. We replace also the hard disks and we install Linux, and they just go for years. So if you want to support us, you can go ahead. You can go ahead and then choose one of the ways. Would be really appreciated so that we can continue produce videos for you guys. Yeah, GNOME is getting better in these days. Absolutely. This is actually always a matter of personal preference. You die. On my main machine here, I use KDE because I use a lot of KDE applications, also Kden Live. But on my laptop, I use GNOME. Well, I'm the first one probably, Fernando. Okay, so we install the packages. There is one step we need to do still, or two steps we need to do. The first one is enable STDM, the display manager for KDE. Otherwise, we won't be able to boot. So we'll do this by typing in sudo systemctl enable STDM and hit enter. Hey, Peppermint, thank you for the sticker. That's that's a funny sticker. Okay, thanks. And thanks for the donation. Okay, so the last thing we want to do before we reboot the machine is actually to install Yay, the Arch user repository helper. So to do this, we can use Git, which we installed before, and we can type in now git clone, and then the address for Yay, which is https://aur.archlinux.org, and then /yay.git, and hit enter. Now, because we downloaded this, we created also a Yay directory. So if we type in now cd-yay, well, actually, let's type in ls. You see we have a Yay directory there, so that's where we need to go. So let's type in cd, then Yay. Now we are there. Inside here, there is a package build file. And here we need to type in make pkg, so for make package, -si, and then the file we saw before, so pkg build, all capital letters. And then we can hit enter. So it's going to take a moment here. Now we need to install also the dependencies by hitting enter. It's going to take a second to do that. Thank you, Peppermint. That's very kind of you. Okay, so now we can proceed by installing Yay. There you go. And Yay is installed. So, we could go ahead now and say, well, let's install something from the Arch user repository before we boot up, right? We could install, for example, timeshift. Why not? So let's type in yay-s and then timeshift and hit enter. So timeshift, for those of you who don't know, it's a backup program for Linux based on rsync or on Btrfs if you have that installed. So we can just leave here the dependency on, that's fine, and differences to show none. We can continue the installation. It's going to take a moment to do that. Oh, I like the Yay directory, Clyde. It's warm in there. So we are going to reboot the machine in a second, and we are going to be booting in KDE, and then we are going to go through some customization stuff. Hi, Chuf. Okay, hope I pronounced you well. KDE was suited for touchscreen, or GNOME is better for that. So there are some options in KDE for touchscreen. Unfortunately, I don't have a touchscreen, so I cannot attest to that. But I've seen some laptops with touchscreen with both KDE and GNOME, and they work actually both fairly well. So timeshift is installed, but before we boot, For timeshift to work, we need to install also cron, otherwise it will not work. Let me get out of the yay directory so the clarity feels better. And we can type in sudo pacman-s and then cron and hit enter. And now we can reboot. So let's type in reboot and hit enter. No, wait, I have to exit the shell here first because I'm via SSH. And I'll pull up my virtual machine here again. Let me go back here and put it in front of you so you can see it better. There you go. And now we can reboot the machine. So I'll type in reboot and hit enter. So let's see what happens. Now here is grub, which is good. Let's put up and see if STDM decides to come up. Oh, it does. Perfect. That's nice. So let's enter our password here. And we are in KDE. There you go. So let me adjust the screen resolution first. Oops, let's go to system settings, display configuration, and let's change my resolution here to full HD. Bam, there you go. And this is done. So what do you think about Wayland? So I think Wayland is potentially great, but it's still probably new. I have it's honestly with you, I've tried Wayland on GNOME, it works fine. I had no issues with that. The only thing why I don't use it is because the screen recorder I'm using is not working with Wayland. So I found myself using GNOME sometimes and I forgot to switch to Xorg and I recorded for half an hour and the video was not there. So that was a fun experience. And so for that, I think Xorg is still probably more mature, but Wayland is surely the future and it's going to take some time. But right now it's getting better, I think. Now Ubuntu also introduced fractional scaling in GNOME with Wayland, which is nice. Although on KDE is actually the scaling is already available also on Xorg. So it really depends also on the desktop environment. Wayland is still in alpha. I'm not sure. I think it's probably still in alpha, but it's probably stable enough so that the Ubuntu people put it in the LTS version. But it's definitely not mature as Xorg right now. That I can imagine. Hi, Chufke. Thank you for your donation. Thank you very much. Yeah, so let's go ahead and look what we have here, shall we? So the first thing I would like to do here is to change this desktop wallpaper because it's nice, but it's not the one I like, especially at this time of the evening. Something a little bit more subtle for my eyes. There you go. We'll change this afterwards anyway. About customization. So KDE is a huge desktop environment. There's so many things we can customize. If we go through all of it, we'll stay here until tomorrow. So I'm going to go through the basics here, which I covered also in one of the tutorials. And the first thing is, which I always try to explore, it's the options we have available also here on the desktop that we see right now, because we are used to jumping into the settings, change the theme and and do all sort of stuff with color. But we have so many things we can do here. We can right click and put widgets. The widgets is something which I don't see very often on desktops. But I use it actually quite often. I use, for example, this digital clock here. And we can right click here and click customize layout. We can make it bigger, for example. We can put the date. And I like to have this here all the time because it's when I work on the screen, I don't have to go with my eyes on the bottom here. So it's nice to have it for me. And another one which I use very often is also the notes widget, to write very quickly sticky notes or something like that. And the other one is also the weather report. Who doesn't live without the weather report? So we can click configure here and click choose. You need to choose the station first. I'm going to use the last one because I know it works, and enter the city where I'm right now and click select and click apply. And I have it right here. Now I can hide the background, which is much better. And you have a widget there. So widgets, I don't know why, but it's not so much used, but it's a fun thing to have, and it can be quite handy. Anyway, that's one thing. The next thing is also our panel here. The panel here, you can have it, probably you know that. You can have it here, you can have it on the top, you can have it on the sides. It's up to you. We just have to right click here and click Edit Panel. And we can grab it here by the screen edge and move it up, for example, here, if you like to. That's also possible. But one thing is, which is very interesting to me, is the view of the application launcher. So this is what comes by default in KDE, but we can change this. We can do actually several alternatives here. If we right click and click Show Alternatives, we can choose the application menu, which brings us back in time to Windows 98 or Windows 2000, something like that. Or we can choose the other version, which is the dashboard. And this is the one actually I like very much. I have a full dashboard of your applications here, and you have the categories here on the right. It's very nicely done. You can scroll through the apps, and when you need to search something, you just type here and search for Chromium, for example. If I don't mistype it, there you go, and then just hit enter, and then it starts up. So the dashboard is very nice, and you can search for apps and also widgets. They're both up here, so it's a very convenient way, and you have also your power menu down here. Yeah, that's right, Clyde. It reminds really of Windows 8, just maybe it a little bit better, probably. I don't know. Anyway, this is one way how we can customize also the panel. Another thing which I'd like to show you guys is the system tray here. This is also customizable, and there are many nice things in here. So by clicking the triangle here, we open up the status and notifications, and we have several things we can configure. But by right-clicking on the triangle here and clicking Configure System Tray, we can configure which icons we want to see here. For example, I have this messaging icon here, which I'll never use. So I can go here and say just always hide and click Apply. But what I do want to see all the time is my notifications bell, because I go to always shown and then I click OK, because here I can always activate the do not disturb mode, and it's always handy to have here. So when I click this bell, I can choose to for 1 hour, 4 hours, until tomorrow, whatever. And when you click it, it shows you also until when it's going to be switched off, which is a very nice touch, I find. So there's many little things we can do here on the panel. But of course, we can go to the settings, and we can go to the appearance tab and change our theme. So think of the global theme here as the master theme for the system. So when you install a global theme or when you use a global theme, it's going to change everything in the system. It's going to change colors, it's going to change the panel, it's going to change the windows, it's going to change the fonts if it does in the theme as well. So for example, let's click here the oxygen theme, and let's click apply. So this is fairly fancy here. So you see the borders are different, colors are different, buttons are different. The panel is also different. The icons on the panel are also different. So it changes everything. If we go to the breeze dark here and click apply, again, it changes everything back. So we have now a dark menu, basically a dark theme here. And well, now I have the dashboard, so it's dark anyway. But if we would have the launcher, it's going to be dark as well. So this is the master theme. The other things under here are components, basically, of the master theme. So the plasma style, for example, if we click on, let's say, air and click apply, look what happens. So it's going to be applied only on the plasma components, like the panel, for example. So it's one component of the theme that is going to change here. Same goes also for application style. For example, application style here, we can choose the different kind of buttons we want to have, or how they look like. If you want to go back to Microsoft Windows 98, for example, or something like that. And also the window decorations. So if we click oxygen now, you can see we mix and match here with the thing we had before with the blue borders, lighting borders here, but the breeze colors and the air, I think it was the air plasma style. So it's a combination of all things here. And the same we can do also for the colors. We can go with another combination from another theme if we want to. So like oxygen cold, for example. It's going to change the overall look here. And same goes for the icons and the cursor as well. So now here you see it selected breeze dark, but it's not anymore applied. So what we need to do here is to go back to another theme. If we want to reapply it, then go back to breeze dark and reapply it again. Now we can install a lot of these themes from here, by clicking here. And we are going to go scroll through here and search for some of these, and we can install them, no problem. We can also go to the Discover Software Center, which we can maximize. And to go to Plasma add-ons here, you have the same categories. You have global themes, icons, Plasma styles. You're going to see the same things you're going to see when you push those buttons in the windows. Now, one word of caution here is if you're going to install themes from here or from the Discover Software Center, it's fine, of course. Most of the themes I think are going to be downloaded from Pling or kd-look.org. That's the website. And that's fine. You can install those. However, there are going to be some leftovers when you want to remove them. So when you install themes from there, you will not be able to remove from components from the global theme here and also from the window decorations. So you'll have some leftovers. Things like plasma styles, colors, and icons, you can remove them with the trash icon here. But borders, window borders, and global theme will not be able to remove those unless you go to delete the components in the directories, which is a little bit more tricky. If you guys want to see how it works by deleting those files from the directories, write me in the chat. I can demonstrate that to you. If not, we can skip this step. So another way how we can install other themes or other icons in the system is to go into the Arch repositories or the Arch user repository, which has tons of stuff. And the beauty there is that we can install and remove everything just with one command. And that's going to remove really everything in the system, not only the Plasma style, but also the global theme and everything else. So it leaves the system more clean. And if you are a fan of customization, you can go crazy here and install 20 themes or more. And if you install them through the internet, you're gonna end up sometime after a few months with a lot of leftovers in the system. So it's up to you, of course. I mean, it's possible to do that. But I personally prefer to install themes, global themes at least, from the Arch user repository because it's easier to remove as well. So let's go ahead and open up Chromium again. So Chromium, you might wonder here why Chromium has this tab here on top, this title bar, but that's because it's using the KDE title bars. We can change here, going to settings, then appearance, and we can switch this off, use system title bar and borders. There you go, and now it's gone. So let's go to archlinux.org and hit enter. And we go to the package search here and type in -theme, for example. Yeah, if I type the dash, it's easier. And that's because always on the desktop environment, my keyboard layout is not there. See what you have here. Any question for you guys? How is multiple screen functionality? Yeah, Daiti. So multiple screen functionality, it's a I don't know. It's a mixed bag for me. It works, but it's not working as I wish it would. I have here two displays. The one that you are seeing now is the Full HD display here, and it's quite tricky to configure it via Xorg. Wayland, it's a little better, but it's not yet perfect. But it's a little bit of a compromise. If you have an internal display, like a laptop display, and an external display, then it's easier. But with two displays, for some reasons, I'm able to scale. I have a scale on my 4K display, and I could scale my Full HD display here to 1080p. The thing is, my interface it's anyway scaled like my 4K display, and I can scale this down. But then in that case, if I do that, my display is going to be just in this corner here. So there is something which I didn't figure out yet, but it works. For the most part, it works. So the first thing here, guys, what I want to show you on this is the Arch main repository. It's we have a lot of themes we can install here. Not only themes, but also icon themes, sound themes, mouse themes. There's a lot of things we can do here. I was trying to, Clyde, you were asking about the code is fine, but the terminal doesn't open. Do you know why? Any fix? Well, if the terminal doesn't open, Can be many things. One you can check is how is your localization settings in the system. Sometimes if they are not correct or there is a, or they went sideways, then the terminal normally doesn't open up. So check your settings for language and region and then try that again. Probably that's one solution. Other than that, right now it doesn't come anything in mind. So what we can install here, for example, let's go ahead and install something from here. Let's go ahead and install this Papyrus icons theme. This is one of my favorite icons themes. So let me pull up here a terminal, which is called console. And let me here go full screen. And I will need to now actually increase the font size, but I can't because I have the US keyboard. So let me change this once and for all, because this works only in the terminal, but not in the desktop environment. So let me quickly select this. It's gonna take 1 second. Remove the US keyboard. There you go. Close this up, and now I can increase the font size fine. Perfect. So we'll type in now sudo pacman-s and then papyrus-icon-theme and hit enter. Enter our password and proceed with the installation by hitting enter. So it's going to take a second here to download and install. Shouldn't be that long. There you go. Now, if we go back to the system settings here, which I'm going to pin here to the taskbar. There you go. Let's go to icons. Now we have our Papyrus icons here installed, right? So you can see if I want to remove them, I have the trash icon here, which I can click and it's going to be gone. But we can remove them, of course, with the Pacman manager, which is easier. So I click Papyrus and click apply. You see the all icons change here as well. So let's go to the dashboard again. You see all the icons changed also. If I open here Dolphin, the file manager, icons change not only here, but also here on the side. It's very nice. It's a nice touch. So we can combine these things together. So what I can show you also, you can mix and match between themes from the Arch repository or also from the Arch user repository or the internet like we saw before. If we go to Plasma style here, for example, and go to get new Plasma styles, one I like is, for example, the transparency, which is breeze transparency. Where is that? So I have to scroll down here. Breeze with transparency. You can see a preview here. Then click install. And that's installed. And now we have it here. So watch what happens to the panel when I click this and click apply. See, now we have the panel is now became transparent. And we can adjust also the amount of transparency. If you go to workspace, for example, desktop effects, and then you go to blur, we can make the noise lower and the blur also lower. And we click OK, then the panel is even more transparent than it was before. So many nice things we can do here in KDE. By the way, two things that I would like to show you also here in the what is that? In the window management. Well, the first one is in the workspace behavior. Yeah. There is, if you're coming from Windows or Mac and you want to open up files, here in KDE by default you open up files and folder with one click. This is not the default behavior in Windows and Mac, so if you want to change that and you're confused about it, you can change it here. Double click to open files and folders and then click apply, and then it's done. Under lock screen, of course, we can also configure our lock screen here by appearance and shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. Another thing which I would like to show you is the startup and shutdown. So this is actually something important if you have an IPI display. If you go to the advanced tab here, if you have an IDPA display, like a 4K display, for example, you will notice that you can scale your interface, let's say to 200%. But if you are on KDE especially, the STDM is not going to be scaled. So you can change this behavior by clicking the sync button here, which is going to sync, as it says here, the Plasma settings, color scheme, cursor theme, font rendering, preferences, Plasma theme, and scaling to the STDM, to the login, to the display manager. So when you then log into your machine, you will have also your STDM scale there. So this is an option which is hidden here, and it's nice to have if you have an IDPI display. So You know, another thing what we could do also, if you go to the Arch repository, and I showed also in the tutorial, there is also the latte doc that you can install. You know, if you type in the latte doc, to have a doc more like Mac OS, for example, you know, we can install this by typing in sudo pacman-s, if I don't make any typo, latte doc, and hit enter. And that's installed, so I can clean the terminal here. Now, if we search for latte doc here, let's search for latte, and there you go. It takes 1 second the first time to boot up here. There you go. Here we have the dock around here. So what we can do right now, for example, is to edit the panel here and ooh, it's so huge, and put this on the top, for example. Close this up, and we have the dock here on the bottom. We can also customize this by click dock settings. You know, we can put it on the left, on the center. We can justify it. We can go to the appearance and, for example, let's say the background, which is the gray border on the line on the bottom, to make it transparent, like something like so. We can choose also another style. You know, if you go to layouts and go to Plasma, for example, it's going to create a dock which is similar to the Plasma panel we have up here. So there you go. Then we can right click again and go to settings, and we can make it, for example, completely transparent as well. So we have a second transparent panel here, for example, but it's something up to you. It's very customizable. You could actually use one of these and, you know, remove the other one if you want to. This is also possible. Anyway, this is one way up. You can customize this. And then, of course, if we want to customize also the wallpaper, we can go here to get new wallpapers. One of my favorite ones, probably you know already, it's Space Wallpaper. If I can type. Oh, that's a nice ship, but that's not the one I'm looking for. Plasma Space, I think it was. Yeah, this one here. So we can click install and install your resolution. I have a 1080p display. There you go. I can select it here and click apply. And now we have a nice wallpaper. And the transparency comes out really well here. You know, there are so many things in KDE. You can right click, for example, on the button here and click configure application dashboard. You can give to the dashboard also different icon if you don't like this one. I have in my system here, I don't think it's installed now here, but I have an Arch Linux icon. I think it's there. You know, we can, for example, click this one and click OK and click apply. And now we have an Arch we have an Arch button here where we can start apps. So it's a nice touch. You know, you can customize everything you want here. So this is a quick customization of KDE. KDE is a huge system. It's very customizable. You can have a lot of fun here customizing it. Just remember that if you install global themes from the internet, you might have some leftovers. And if you want to know where they are, those leftovers, I can show them to you right now very quickly, just the directories. Because there is nothing to delete there right now. But the global theme directories where stuff are going to be left over is under, you have to type in cd because we need to switch the directory to -local/share /plasma and hit enter and type ls to see the content. So we have a desktop theme directory here, but if you install some themes from the internet, you'll have also a look and feel directory here. So you'll need to go into these two directories here and remove the files in there. And then everything in the global theme will be gone. And the other directory for the window borders is the cd. So we need to change directory to .local/share/aurora. Okay, now I don't have it in because I don't have anything installed from there. /aurora/themes, and then there you can delete everything for the window borders, which is left over. And those are the two directory that you can visit to do that. So this is about it with the installation in the KDE desktop environment. So maybe the last thing I can show you before we close up here is to how we can customize our terminal, because the terminal is something we use a lot, especially in Arch. And I do customize my terminal to have a better terminal for me. This is of course very personal. So we can click on configure console, for example. So what I do like is I don't want to have the menu bar, which is this menu bar right here, because I can open it anytime I want to. So I can click apply. It's going to disappear at the next time I start the shell. And I want to remove also the window border and frame for now. So I can click this and it's going to be removed immediately. and click OK. Then we can click settings here and go to the edit profile. This is where we can customize our colors as well. So you can choose between many themes here. There's many things we can choose from. We can have a preview also. We can change the font. You know, if you don't like this one, you can go to, for example, Source Code Pro. We can increase this to, let's say, to 18. So that's better. And we can click apply. We can also then edit this theme. For example, I go in here and say, okay, let's change the foreground, which is the text color here. Let's pick maybe some, let's go for this green here and click apply. And now it's changed. And the last thing what I could do is also to give transparency to my terminal. Let's go, for example, to 20, something like that, and click apply. And this is how it looks like. So if I would now close it up, let me pin it on the taskbar here. And I close it up and didn't get pinned. Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, it's there. It's here. And that's how it looks like. So I could remove also the scroll bar here by right-clicking, go to show menu bar, and then I think it's under configure console here. Oh no, sorry, it's under edit profile and then scrolling, and then hidden, and click apply. There you go. Then we have transparent terminal. So it's a matter of personal preference, but this is how you can customize the console. At least this is the terminal coming with KDE. It's called console. It's very flexible. The terminal which comes with GNOME, at least in Arch Linux, I don't remember how it's in Ubuntu. It doesn't have transparency, but you can install the GNOME terminal transparency from the AUR, and it's going to give you also there the transparency option. But that's not available in the main repository. It's just in the AUR. So this just as an info. So that's about it for the installation and the KDE. If you guys have any question, you can shoot them in the chat. Take some minutes for that. Hi, MEP. No worries. A lot of questions. That's good. Questions are always good. So about hardware compatible with Linux, it's difficult question to answer. It's parts compatible with Linux. I would say if you were interested in buying new hardware for Linux, the first thing I would check is the Wi-Fi card and the graphic card. These are the two components which might cause some problems in Linux, because they might use proprietary drivers, or because it's an NVIDIA card which is not maybe supported yet, or something like that. Those are the only two components. The rest, more or less, it should actually work out of the box. Bye, Bengt. Thanks for coming. And thank you so much for the donation. Hans is asking me, it's XFCE, the least bloated DE. It's one of the least bloated DE, definitely. It works very well on old machines. The other one, which I think is also very nice and it's very, very light, it's LXQT, which I'm going to cover also in one of the future videos. LXQT is the follower. It's supposed to be the follower. It will be the follower of LXDE. It's basically LXDE based on Qt, and it's very nice. I checked actually Lubuntu, and I was very impressed by the interface. It's really snappy, but it's at the same time also very elegant, and it's very flexible. And I'm going to cover it in one of my customization videos because I think it's really nice too. It's a nice UI. Hans is asking about Mate. Yes, Mate also. Mate is I did actually the review of the Ubuntu Mate distribution, and I really loved it. I was actually surprised how nice it was. It has so many little things which makes the whole workflow very, very nice. And it's very light. It's a fork of GNOME. I like very much the Mate desktop environment. Another desktop environment which I liked a lot is also Budgie, which is home to the Solus Linux distribution and has been also used in the Ubuntu Budgie. It's one of the community flavors of Ubuntu. It's nice. It's very flexible as well. It's very modern looking, and it's a nice blend between GNOME and Windows like, Mac OS like. So it's also a nice desktop environment. We have so many choices in Linux. I think we are so lucky, guys. To be honest with you. So Google time. So I'm not aware that there is not on the top of my head. I don't have any website that I can recommend you, but we can do a quick Google search and see what we find. Linux hardware compatibility. Well, you can go. There is a link you can check maybe here. I'll paste it here in the chat so that you can see it. MIP. This one here. It's supposed to have hardware which is compatible with Linux, so you can have a look in there and see what's available. But like I said, the things which I would worry the most are the graphic cards and the Wi-Fi cards. These are the ones which are a little bit more tricky. No problem. You guys, if you don't have any question, so Chusuke is asking how long are you using Arch, and is it my daily driver? Yes, it's my daily driver. Arch Linux. I'm using this for everything. All the video productions, everything I do is everything done on Arch Linux. How long I'm using Arch? Um, so stably, I would say probably since December. I was using before. I used for some time Fedora, which I really liking. Fedora, it's for the ones of you who don't know, Fedora, it's the community distribution based from, which is sponsored for Red Hat. It's a great distro. It's very standard. It's standard Linux distribution. It offers only open source drivers, so your video card doesn't work out of the box. You have to install the drivers afterwards. It's maybe not user friendly like Ubuntu, but it's a great distro, and I really liked using Fedora. It was always very good, stable. It uses vanilla GNOME, so it was a great distro. But then I discovered more and more Arch, and I couldn't go back anymore to any other distro. Although no, I'm using many distros when I make reviews, so I had the chance to try them out. And Arch Linux for me personally, it's my favorite one because you can model it the way you want to, you can make it the way you want to, you can install whatever you like, you can, you know, it's customizable in everything basically. So that's why it's my favorite distribution. But for me, there is no best or worst. It's just a matter of personal preference, and yeah, and that's it. So if you guys don't have any more questions, probably we can wrap this up. The video is going to be recorded and it's going to be on the channel immediately after the stream is over. Again, um, I ask you if you want to, you can always support us by visiting the shop on the website, by donating via PayPal, or also visiting our Patreon website. That will helps us a lot continue making content. And so just for the next day, so that you know what's coming, I have the next week. Well, tomorrow I'm going to take the day off, and Monday I'm going to work on the XFCE desktop environment customization. It's gonna be quite a huge video because XFCE can be very, it's at the beginning it's very skinny, but you can make it really nice. And then following that, I'm going to explore also Cinnamon and LXQT. And then I'm going to start to work on window managers like i3 and OpenBox. And those are going to take a little longer because they are a little bit more difficult topics to cover. And I need to split them up in a few videos in order to cover them well. So bear with me there. Have a bit patience. I know many of you are wanting to have the i3 and OpenBox videos. They are going to come. I can promise you that. Just give me the time to make the videos. The problem, in making these tutorials is not so much to make the video itself, but it's to And that's where I spend most of the time. It's to find out what to put on the video and how to put it, because I cannot put everything on the video. It's just, it would be much too long. And I need to also find out how to put it in a way for you guys to, to be able to, that easier to understand, and then make a tutorial out of it. So I need to test it. I need to test it a couple of times, and then I need to record it and edit it and then upload it. So it takes a little time. So I appreciate also your patience there. So if there is no questions, guys, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I thank you a lot for coming tonight and for bearing with me these 2 hours. It was nice to have you here, and I wish you a great weekend and a great Sunday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and if you have any question, oh my okay, if you have any questions after the stream, you can post them in the video description, and I'll be answering them, of course, tomorrow or Monday again. So thank you very much again for coming, and I wish you a great evening and take care, and I'll see you soon in the next live stream. Bye bye. Oh, by the way, if you want to have a live stream with another topic, you let me know in the comments. If you want to have a live stream about something specific that you are interested in, like for example, somebody mentioned BudRFS file system, let me know. We need to have enough people who are interested in a topic before we can make a live stream on that. Otherwise, we keep doing live streams regularly, maybe every month or every 2 months. For people who want to install Arch Linux with a desktop environment, and the next time I'll let you also choose which desktop environment you want to install, and then we can customize that together. All right. So thank you again for coming, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Oh wait, there is a suggestion here for a quick overview of the VirtualBox settings. Okay, we'll do that. And Harold, while you are there, I can tell you also we'll make once a live stream about KVM, the virtual management for Arch Linux. That's gonna come up surely in one of the streams. All right, if you have any question, let me know in the comments below. I wish you again a great evening, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Take care.